Sarah never considered herself the superstitious type. She was practical, logical, and too busy working two jobs to entertain thoughts of ghosts or the supernatural. But everything changed the night she installed a baby monitor in her son's room. It started as a simple precaution, just a way to keep an eye on little Liam while she worked late shifts. But when she turned on the monitor one night, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A shadowy figure moved near the crib. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She was home alone. Who or what was in her child's room? Before we dive into this chilling yet heartwarming story, make sure to subscribe to Stories Unfolded for more incredible real-life stories that will leave you speechless. And if you love stories with unexpected twists, hit that like button. It really helps us bring you more content like this. Now, let's get into it. Sarah was no stranger to hardship. As a single mother raising her 1-year-old son, Liam, every day was a balancing act between work, childcare, and exhaustion. She had moved into her small apartment just a few months ago, grateful to finally have a place of her own after bouncing between temporary housing. It wasn't much, just a modest 2-bedroom in an older building, but it was theirs, and that was all that mattered. Between working late-night shifts as a waitress and taking online courses to improve her career prospects, Sarah hardly got a moment to rest. Most nights, she would come home after midnight, tiptoe into Liam's room to check on him, and then collapse into bed for a few hours before starting all over again the next day. Despite the exhaustion, she never complained. Liam was her world. Every smile, every giggle, every tiny milestone made the struggle worth it. But being a single mom came with constant worry. The thought of something happening to Liam while she wasn't watching terrified her. That's why, after a long debate with herself, she finally decided to install a baby monitor in his room. It was a simple device, nothing fancy, just a small camera positioned above his crib, connected to an app on her phone. That way she could check on him even when she wasn't in the room. At first, the monitor gave her peace of mind. She could glance at her phone during her shifts, see Liam sleeping soundly, and breathe a little easier. But soon, that feeling of security would turn into sheer terror. It started with something small, a noise. One night, after a particularly grueling shift, Sarah came home, kicked off her shoes, and checked the monitor before heading to bed. The screen showed Liam fast asleep, but through the tiny speaker, she heard a faint, almost imperceptible creak, as if someone had stepped on the wooden floor near his crib. She frowned and switched on the hallway light before pushing open the door to his room. Nothing seemed out of place. Liam lay on his back, his tiny chest rising and falling with soft, even breaths. The old apartment had creaky floors. It was probably just the wood settling. Brushing off the feeling of unease, she turned off the light and went to bed. But that was just the beginning. The next night, things got worse. The next night, Sarah came home exhausted as usual. She set her purse down, rubbed her temples, and opened the baby monitor app. She had made a habit of checking it first thing whenever she walked through the door. At first, everything seemed normal. Liam was curled up on his side, his favorite stuffed rabbit tucked under his arm. The soft glow of his nightlight cast long shadows across the room. Then, movement. Sarah's breath hitched. In the dim light of the monitor screen, she saw something shift near the crib. It was quick, just a flicker in the corner of the screen, but enough to send a chill down her spine. She stared, unblinking, waiting for another sign of movement. Seconds passed. Nothing. Her mind raced for explanations. Maybe it was just a glitch. Maybe the camera was adjusting its focus. She shook her head. telling herself she was just overtired. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. For the next few minutes, she watched the monitor intensely, her thumb hovering over the screen to zoom in. Her heartbeat slowed as everything remained still. Liam didn't stir, and the room looked exactly as she had left it. She exhaled deeply, feeling foolish for overreacting. It had to be her imagination. Still, just to ease her own mind, she walked quietly down the hall and peeked into Liam's room. The crib was undisturbed, his stuffed animals in their usual spots. She scanned the shadows, searching for anything unusual. But the only thing moving in the room was the gentle rise and fall of Liam's chest as he slept. Nothing was there. Shaking off the nerves, she tiptoed back to bed. But as she lay down, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't help but wonder. Had she really imagined it? Or was something in that room with her son? And then came night 3. That was when Sarah could no longer deny what she saw. By the 3rd night, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The first night, she had dismissed the strange movement as a trick of the light. The second night, she convinced herself it was exhaustion. But when it happened again, she knew. This was real. It was late, 3:12 a.m., when she woke up with a strange sense of unease. She didn't know why, but something pulled her out of her deep sleep. Instinctively, she reached for her phone and opened the baby monitor app. At first, everything looked normal. Liam lay still, his tiny hands curled into fists, his soft breathing barely visible on the grainy screen. The nightlight cast a faint glow across the room. Then, at 3:15 a.m. sharp, it happened. A shadow moved across the crib. Sarah's entire body tensed. This was not a trick of the light, not a camera glitch. She could see it, a dark figure shifting near her son's crib. It wasn't a clear shape, but there was movement, unmistakable and slow. It loomed for a moment, hovering near Liam, and then vanished, as if it had melted into the darkness. Her heart pounded in her chest. Every muscle in her body screamed for her to run into the room, but fear paralyzed her. What if someone was in there? Her mind raced through every possibility. An intruder? A neighbor's shadow somehow casting through the window? Or something else? Finally, she forced herself to move, grabbing the nearest object, her phone charger. She bolted down the hallway. She flung the door open, her breath caught in her throat. The room was empty. Liam was still sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the presence that had just been there. Sarah's hands trembled as she scanned the room. The closet doors were shut. Nothing was under the crib, and the windows were locked from the inside. There was no sign that anyone had been there at all. And yet, she had seen something. Her pulse pounded in her ears. She took a step closer to the crib, reaching out for her son. As her fingers brushed against his tiny arm, the baby monitor app glitched. The screen flickered, static buzzing in her ears. And for the briefest second, just before the feed cut out completely, she saw it again. A figure, standing behind the crib. Sarah gasped, whipping around, but the room was still empty. Her knees nearly gave out beneath her. Something was in her apartment, something only visible through the monitor, and it was watching her son. The next morning, Sarah couldn't shake the fear gripping her chest. The baby monitor wasn't broken. She had seen something, and whatever it was, it had been watching over Liam. Determined to find answers, she reached out to her landlord, casually asking about the apartment's history. The older man hesitated before revealing a chilling truth. Years ago, The unit had belonged to an elderly woman named Margaret. She had been a retired nurse, known for caring for children in the building. She never had kids of her own, but she loved them deeply. When she passed away, she left behind no family, just an empty apartment filled with memories of the little ones she had once watched over. Sarah's breath caught. Could it be? Was Margaret still here? That night she made a choice. Instead of fearing the presence, she sat by Liam's crib and whispered, "Thank you." For the first time in nights, the monitor remained still. No shadow, no movement, only Liam, sleeping soundly. Sarah never saw the figure again. But deep down, she knew. Margaret had been there not to harm, but to protect. And in a way, she always would be. What would you have done in Sarah's situation? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories Unfolded for more unbelievable real-life stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.